ultimately everything comes back to the gut. Your immune health comes back to your gut. Your hormone production comes back to the gut. So all these things, people who are dealing with endometriosis, PCOS, autoimmune conditions, thyroid issues, all of these things have an element and a root in the gut.
Welcome back to the Few podcast. Rob had to step away for a meeting, so I'm taking over the introduction today. And we have a really exciting guest today, Melanie Murphy-Richter, who is an accomplished registered dietitian nutritionist, 2023's recognized Young Dietitian of the Year by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. She is the Director of Communications at a leading medical nutrition and longevity science company, L-Nutra, and graduate instructor of nutrition physiology through the lifespan at the University of California, Irvine. She mentors and educates future healthcare professionals on the power of nutrition on one's health and health span. Melanie's passion for holistic healing led her to establish Holistic Ritual, a science-backed holistic healing nutrition and integrative medicine practice. Now let's bring in Melanie Murphy-Richter.
Well, welcome, Melanie, and thank you for joining us to the Few podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely.
So Madison and I are going to go rapid fire. We're going to run you through the gauntlet. We're going to have all the questions for you. It's going to be really tough and intense today. I hope you're ready for it.
I'm an athlete, so bring it on.
Oh, I love it. I love that. You're going to bring the intensity. Well, we're looking forward to having you at our Confidence Summit, but more importantly for our audience to learn a little bit more about you today, and that's why we're here. So why don't we just start off with tell us about yourself?
I am a registered dietitian by trade. I'm a longevity and gut health specialist. I also have my arms in a lot of different worlds, including I work as a director of communications for a longevity science company, helping to bring nutrition-based protocols and products to the longevity market. And yeah, I'm a vegan chef by night. I'm a new mom, and yeah, just trying to walk the walk over here.
That's fantastic. And just like high performing athletes or high performing moms or entrepreneurs, just give it to all of you and you guys will just make it happen in many levels, many levels.
Oh my gosh. If you want to have a successful company, hire moms. We are the best. We're the best.
I firmly believe that. I see what my wife does every single day, and I'm amazed. So it's awesome to see as well. Well, let's get into your journey to becoming a registered dietitian first.
Well, as most universal guidance takes place, I think it was a lot of tiny things throughout my life, but I think it all came to a head ultimately when I was in my early to mid 20s. I suffered from pretty severe IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, with we're talking the better part of 8 to almost 10 years of really struggling with my digestion, with the foods that I was eating. I was, carrying 25 pounds of inflammatory weight. My hormones were a wreck. It was just a really tough decade. And that was amidst, my dad is a doctor, my mom is a nurse in the Western field of medicine. And I went to everybody. I went to gastroenterologists. I went to, allergists. I went to everyone under the sun to try to get answers for my condition. And no one was giving me answers. They just kind of wrote me off as like, this is IBS. This is your new normal. This is what you got to deal with. And, good luck kind of thing. And as you can tell, I don't take no for an answer. I really, truly was befuddled by that response. So I went on my own journey to figure out what the heck was going on with me. And I ended up going through a myriad of different journeys. I found a naturopathic doctor here in Los Angeles who ran a variety of specialty laboratory testing on me. And we did a variety of a mix between Ayurvedic medicine and acupuncture medicine and Chinese medicine and nutrition-based protocols to help ultimately heal and completely reverse my IBS situation. Man, that was such a peak moment for me because I was not only feeling better in my body, but in feeling better in my body, I ended up opening up a whole world of things that were otherwise not even possible for me. I went back to school to get my master's in nutrition, health span, and longevity from the Longevity Institute at USC. I changed careers, everything. I think for me, once I was able to crack through the physical elements that were holding me back, everything else became possible. So I went back to school. At that point, I was like, I need to do this and spread the word to other people, not only to help people in my situation find real answers and resolve for what they're experiencing, but also to help people to be well from the beginning, to instead of, I think in the Western medical model, we're constantly reacting and responding to people once they have a problem, rather than, oh, how can we make sure you never have a problem? And I wanted to really get into that space.
That's fantastic. And it's important for our audience to understand is through that journey where you are today from where you were, and your passion to help people through your personal experience and that decade-long journey, if you will, you also left a high-paying career to just jump headfirst into what you're doing.
I think about this a lot, actually. In my undergraduate degree, I have a degree in journalism and public relations. And I minored actually in consumer foods at that time because I had an inkling that nutrition was something that I was interested in, but I didn't take the plunge at that point. But I was in healthcare public relations for 10 years. And the last 4 of them, I actually started my own PR agency and was working with lots of big pharmaceutical companies and different food brands that are super successful. And I was making incredible money, better money than I am today doing what I'm doing, to be honest. And I think that was actually why it took me a while to make the jump, because I was like, wait, I'm really good at this thing. I'm making incredible money. I have more savings than I ever had in my whole life. And yet I was still unhappy. And yet I was still struggling to wake up inspired and excited about what I was doing. And that was a wonderful learning for me at the time, because I was like, first of all, I learned that I'm capable of financial freedom at any stage. That's possible for me, regardless of where I am. But also, money isn't where my happiness is going to lie. And not to say that that's not where my career is leading me now, but I do think that there needs to be alignment with what makes you happy. And I truly believe once you are in that alignment, money flows and follows you after that.
The real question is, how many people in today's world, number one, are dealing with IBS or some form or variation of it? Number two, what are the common causes? Is it anxiety? Is it diet and nutrition? Is it hereditary, environmental? Like, really sort of unpack that for our audience. I'm curious as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, you've asked 3 lion questions. So IBS is incredibly common, and it's a spectrum. So there is a trajectory of IBS that can lead to IBD, which is irritable bowel disease, which encompasses things like Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, and other autoimmune based diseases. But the spectrum of IBS is quite vast. You could have bloating and occasional diarrhea and constipation and still be considered in the IBS camp, versus somebody that has severe anxiety, depression, lots of, like me, once upon a time, where I was having not a single regular bowel movement in my, for the better part of 6 years. So there is a spectrum, but most people, I think, in today's society, in today's world, we are dealing with the onslaught of chronic conditions. Western modalities of care are incredible for treating people with acute care, right? You could go outside and get hit by a car, or get sepsis, which is a severe, infection of the blood. And you want Western medicine for that, because we'll take care of you in those situations. But problem is that we have gotten so advanced in our medicine that we are no longer dealing with acute care issues as being the primary problems of our society. We're dealing with people with slow drip chronic conditions that come on slowly and accelerate over time. And those types of conditions are really hard to, first of all, get people to realize that they have an issue right now, or to act today on those things if it's not super severe. So anyways, to answer your question, IBS, I would say, I don't know the exact statistics, so I'm not going to throw a number out, but I would say most people live on the spectrum of IBS. It's really just a matter of how severe it can be. But yeah, the downstream effects of that is that most people don't realize that anxiety, depression are related to IBS and gut related imbalances. A lot of it is related to, we're in a mass food production, processed, ultra processed food world, where most of us are eating a lot of highly nutrient empty foods that are high in calories, high in added sugar, high in other synthetic and additive foods. We are living in bigger bodies with nutrient depletions also, which is interesting because, as a dietitian, I think for a long time we assumed that malnourishment meant that you were super, super thin. It actually, we're seeing more people in much bigger bodies that are significantly malnourished because we're not getting the nutrients and the vitamins and minerals that we need. And if you're already starting at that baseline, your gut isn't getting the nutrients it needs to repair itself, to break down foods properly, right? So there's that realm. There's also, because of the way of the world and how we're eating foods in Western societies, we're chronically inflamed. We have a lot of internal chronic inflammation that is causing a breakdown of our gut lining, that is causing things like SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. We're seeing just an onslaught of autoimmune conditions too that are coming and stemming from gut related imbalances. So ultimately, this is I'm trying to capture everything that you asked because I could go on hour-long tangents on all of them, but ultimately everything comes back to the gut. Your immune health comes back to your gut. Your hormone production comes back to the gut. So all these things, people who are dealing with endometriosis, PCOS, autoimmune conditions, thyroid issues, all of these things have an element and a root in the gut, because ultimately the gut is what breaks down our food and digests and assimilates our food. And if we cannot do that properly, it has a downstream effect nearly every other system in that we're dealing with. It's something that is decently pervasive. It's not just food that can heal it though, or that will heal it. It's also, as you mentioned, environment, not just the air and water we're drinking, but also the relationships and the stress that we're dealing with and the emotional components that we're dealing with in our day-to-day life. It's so many different things that kind of congeal in terms of how to take this in a bite-sized way, because it is such a big concept and it is such a big thing to unravel. I always like to start with the body, and I always like to start with food, because it is something that we have control over and that we do several times a day already. We're already sitting down to eat. This is the greatest medicine that we have. If we can start with what's on our plate first, then we can start peeling back this very deep and intense onion of all of these other elements that play a role in our overall health and ultimately our gut health.
Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Bronwyn Eisen. I'm the CEO, co-founder, and co-host of the Confidence Summit that is happening February 27th and 28th at the beautiful Ritz-Carlton in Rancho Mirage, California. You're not going to want to miss this year's Confidence Summit, so join us again February 27th and 28th. We'll see you soon. And be sure to grab your ticket at societyofthefew.org.
Well, you're truly inspiring us, and I think our audience is going to get in for a real treat by attending the Confidence Summit and seeing you live in person, and then getting to meet with you and have that one-on-one throughout the day. It's going to be truly impactful for a lot of people in the room, and I know you have a lot to share.
Yes, I'm super excited. I know you talk a lot about finances and financial freedom. And, there is an element to this that when it comes to financial freedom, I do believe that it's also starts in our body. It starts with us feeling confident in our body, feeling confident in our health. And also our gut is the seat of our intuitions. It's where, quite figuratively and literally, the seat of where we have these gut feelings of what is right for us. If we heal our gut at this cellular biological level, it gives us more clarity to picking up these downloads of, this is right for me. I know that this feels accurate to where I want to go in my life. So I truly feel like, when you're in doubt, starting at the gut level or with your gut and with the foods that you're consuming at home, you are already on a huge path to financial freedom too.
So you've been talking about how important food is. And I feel like in the digital world that we live in, there's so much differing advice and so many different diets like keto, high protein. What kind of foods do you recommend that people eat?
That's another big line of a question. I think the first question that's important to ask is what your ultimate goal is. Because I think that, first of all, everybody is uniquely in their own body, and not just their physical body, but the way that their body is interacting with their environment, their world, their work stress, their emotional life, their relationships. Everybody has this unique fingerprint, right? And what's going to work for you is not necessarily going to work for me right now, right? Understanding what your goal is an important first question to ask, because that will take you on a full different trajectory. I like to bring this, when I get this question, I like to bring it back to longevity. when it comes to longevity and living a really long time in a healthy body, what I would recommend to you is probably going to be different than somebody that might want to be in a chiseled bodybuilder, physique. Those are two different tracks, right? So again, what's your goal? But if you're thinking about living until you're, in your 100s in a healthy body and hiking up Mount Kilimanjaro and still keeping up with your grandkids and all of that, which is my goal, you want to focus on a couple different elements. First of all, you want to focus on the timing and the structure around how and when you're eating foods. So not just about the foods you're eating in those times, but focusing on the structure. So for females and women, I would never suggest you skip breakfast. It is hugely important from a hormonal perspective. We need cortisol to get out of bed, but we want to pull it back down, within the hour or two of getting up because its job is done, right? But if we skip breakfast, which intermittent fasting is hugely popular concept right now, it has legs, but people are doing it backwards where they're skipping breakfast and eating their first meal at 1 or 2 p.m. That will wreak havoc on your hormones, especially for a woman. I would say it's true for men too, although they have a little bit more flexibility and wiggle room. And then also following circadian patterns. So eating with the sun, most people are eating well past 7 and 8 p.m. at night. If you're eating, past the sunshine hours and well into the night, you're going to have more trouble with your insulin levels and glucose levels and breaking down fat because your organs aren't as awake, right? So there's elements of that too that are important for circadian eating and circadian patterns. But within that structure, from a longevity perspective, I focus a lot on obviously whole foods and foods that are rich in fiber. Our early human ancestors were eating upwards of 100 grams of fiber a day. Now, like getting somebody to eat 30 grams of fiber a day is like a huge challenge. So just, eating more fiber, getting more, plant-based, colorful food in your diet, but also minimizing, and this is a potentially, it often is a controversial topic, but from a longevity perspective, mitigating how much animal proteins and animal products you eat, because the excessive consumption of protein, specifically from animal-based sources, accelerates the rate of our cell aging. So we get biologically older, the more protein, the more animals that we consume. Not to say that you can't consume them, occasionally, but decentralizing animals from your plate is going to be a huge benefit to you over time. But in general, structure, lots of colors, lots of plants, lots of fiber, getting enough protein from the right sources like nuts, seeds, legumes, tofu, fish, and lots of really great monounsaturated fats from things like, avocados and olive oils and things that are really going to nourish the, vitamin E and K that we need to really live a long and healthy life. That's a huge topic, but that's kind of my Cliff's Notes version.
You talked about goals, Melanie, and Madison had a great question, and you answered it. Basically, everyone is unique to their fingerprint of what their health goal specifically is. And I totally get that. So I'm turning 50 next month and my job is to get rid of my dad bod. So we're going to have to come up with a nutrition plan. But the good news is that you have a company that can help people just like me, right? And anybody in the audience.
I sure do.
But it's Holistic Ritual. You started in 2019. Tell us about that.
Yes. So Holistic Ritual is my answer to helping people in a more personalized, targeted way. Because ultimately, and I do love the question of, what would you recommend? But when I work with patients one-on-one, I'm running specialty laboratory testing to understand exactly how their hormones are functioning right now, exactly the makeup of their gut, so that I can be more specific about what is going to work with them right away. Like, for instance, on the one hand, I do want people to eventually consume more fiber, but if you are experiencing IBS or gut-related issues today, going extra slow in that process is critical, because if you eat too much too soon, you're going to have a whole host of problems, right? So it's really important to get very targeted and specific and personalized with what is specifically happening in your body today, so I can actually, work with you. But ultimately, yeah, I would say from the dad bod perspective, I think it's important to consider, how your hormones are working on a day-to-day basis so that we can work specifically with how to structure your diet. And because it's not just about foods, it's about how you're eating them and when you're eating them. And if you want to get really granular, there are 3 main macronutrients. We have carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And how you structure those in and around your workouts matters. Right. So like if you're eating these foods in the wrong order, like I talk about that all the time too. You could be eating the exact same meal, the two of you side by side. Rob, which foods you eat first can significantly impact and change how your body digests the whole meal.
So how do you get to the bottom of that? Does your company do like a blood panel test and a series of tests?
Yes, I run, I would say for most of my patients, 95% of my patients, I run an organic acid test. Organic acid tests are urinalysis that basically looks at the metabolites of all of the organisms within your system. So if you think about your gut being living, a series of trillions of living organisms, they all have excrement, right? So by measuring those metabolites, we understand what is present currently in your system, but also how the presence of those microorganisms impact the production of hormones. I can look at your dopamine levels, your serotonin levels. I can look at how well those microorganisms are breaking down things like B vitamins and vitamin D and all of these things that really impact overall, digestion. So I run organic acid tests on people. But basically if somebody comes to work with me, I have a 90-minute initial patient consult that it kind of feels a little intense because I'm asking you about literally everything under the sun, from what you currently do in your day-to-day life versus what your family history health is, what your goals are, what your bowel movements look like today. We get really deep into that, by the way. But that will give me a sense of which direction to take people. So if, based on your goals and based on what I'm hearing you say, it gives me a better inkling like, oh yeah, we need to test this person's adrenal function, or we need to test this person. We need to do a Dutch panel, which is a comprehensive hormone panel on this person. Or maybe it is an IgG food sensitivity panel. Maybe that's where we go, which is kind of gives us a better insight into what foods might be aggravating your body right now and causing inflammation inadvertently. I start with a really detailed initial patient consult that kind of helps guide the recommendation, but I always love to use data because ultimately data doesn't lie. I mean, there's a lot that I can do with my patients without it, but having data tracking to showcase the progression and the outcomes is really, really helpful, both for the patient and for me.
Well, that sounds amazing, Melanie. In fact, we're going to have you back because there's so much more that we could talk about. I think we just scratched the surface here today, Madison. Melanie, we thank you for your time today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
And we're looking forward to having you at our Confidence Summit, Women, Wealth, and Wellness. It's February 28th on Saturday at the end of the month in Rancho Mirage, the Ritz-Carlton. And it's just going to be a wonderful event. So our audience, I encourage everybody, come see Melanie. We're going to have over 24 health and wellness experts, from gut health to brain health and everything in between. So I'm really excited for it. I know our audience is too.
Likewise. Thank you for having me on.
All right. We'll see you soon.
That was so much amazing information, and I hope you're all coming to the Confidence Summit to hear more from Melanie. Just a reminder, it's February 27th and 28th at the Ritz-Carlton in Rancho Mirage, and you can get your tickets at societyofthefew.org. And as we finish every episode, we have a couple quotes. The first by Mahatma Gandhi: "It is health that is real wealth and not pieces of gold and silver." And our second quote is by Mandy Hale: "Change is painful, but nothing is as painful as staying stuck somewhere you don't belong." And thank you again for watching this episode of the Few Podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode of Season 3. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
This podcast is brought to you by David Field Producer. It is produced and directed by David Field and Kristen George, and its mix, edit, and socials by Kristen George. Blanky Shine Wealth Management is a group of investment professionals registered with Hightower Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC, and with Hightower Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor with the SEC. Securities are offered through Hightower Securities, LLC. Advisory services are offered through Hightower Advisors, LLC. This is not an offer to buy or sell securities. No investment process is free of risk, and there is no guarantee that the investment process or the investment opportunities referenced herein will be profitable. Past performance is not indicative of current or future performance and is not a guarantee. The investment opportunities referenced herein may not be suitable for all investors. All data and information referenced herein are from sources believed to be reliable. Any opinions, news, research, analysis, prices, or other information contained in this research is provided as general market commentary. It does not constitute investment advice. Blanky Shine Wealth Management and Hightower shall not in any way be liable for claims and make no expressed or implied representations or warranties as to the accuracy or completeness of the data and other information, or for statements or errors contained in or omissions from the obtained data and information referenced herein. The data and information are provided as of the date referenced. Such data and information are subject to change without notice. This document was created for informational purposes only. The opinions expressed are solely those of Blanky Shine Wealth Management and do not represent those of Hightower Advisors, LLC, or any of its affiliates.